Look at them all. They love looking at your button nose. You have a little button nose. You do. A little button face. And it's so much easier to see your face now that you're all trimmed. Yes. Oh, yes. Hello, BookTube, and welcome to your Daily Penguin. This is our tour through my Penguin Classic wall. It's really your excuse to look at Frida every day, or almost every day. We're going book by book, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this Penguin Classic tour was to get a sort of Domesday Book census of what I actually have. Because I've been sticking stuff on there. If I'm prowling that shelf, as I often am, and I pull down a book because I want to check on something or just revisit something, I will very often not, do the Jenga necessary to put it back where I found it. Instead, I'll just plop it somewhere. And also, I've been adding penguins, and I consume them when I get them, and then I just plop them on the shelf. And as a result, most of this is badly disorganized. One of the goals, aside from giving these books the attention that I've always thought they deserved, would be to get a better handle on what I have, what I don't have, what I have and don't want, and what I don't have and do want. And we have not had the best of luck in this Daily Penguin in terms of a Steve Squeal book. You would think that the whole Penguin wall would be, and ideally it should be. Penguin makes enough such books, but lately we've been hitting books that I am only so-so about, that I don't care all that much about. Sometimes it's been because I thought that they were bad. Or in other times, like for instance, specifically in the case of Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, it was a case where I recognized the book's genius, but it just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. It doesn't do that thing that you want a book to do, and it's not a necessary given that a great book will do that. And which is why it is absolutely wrong for anyone you know to try and guilt you about what you like and don't like, because it isn't a guaranteed thing that a great book will do that. And it's also not a guaranteed thing that a bad book won't do that. And that feeling that I'm talking about, a volcano erupting inside you, your whole inner parameters smiling and with happiness, that is the reason to read. The one and only reason to read. So, at least the one and only reason to read for pleasure. And in response to that Thomas Hardy video, I got just the responses that I wanted. I heard not only from people who were baffled, like I am, by the way that Thomas Hardy's novels can make some people just come alive on the inside, but also from people who love him, who think he is if one of the greatest, if not the greatest writer in the English language, and whose books have meant an enormous amount to them over the years. That was fantastic to hear. Fantastic. It had one negative side effect. Maybe you don't think it's negative. Those of you who like Thomas Hardy that much will think it's a positive effect. The one of the effects it had was to make me not want to get rid of any Penguin Classic Thomas Hardy that I have, when I'd kind of sort of decided to do that. Because he's had a whole lifetime to work on me, and he hasn't done it any more than Charles Dickens has. And several of you pointed out, well, you say that you've been trying for Thomas Hardy for a long time and it hasn't worked, and that you're therefore thinking about getting rid of his books because they're always free. They're always available on Project Gutenberg and other places. But we can't help but notice that you showed us a whole armful of Charles Dickens, and you don't plan on getting rid of him. And he doesn't work for you either. Fair enough. Fair enough. So I will probably keep my Thomas Hardy, especially since I know there are so many Thomas Hardy lovers out there whose channels I watch. I know that a lot of the people who stuck up for him are people who know a hawk from a handsaw when it comes to the books they read. Still no accounting for individual taste. That is still no guarantee. You could fill a room with great readers. They aren't all going to have the same taste. It's not like they're going to lay you out a list of their favorite books, and that list will be the same. Although, as I've mentioned a few times, though that room full of experienced, serious, really good, sharp, deep readers will probably agree on more or less a list of great authors. They just will be able to follow it up by saying not all of them work for me personally. There's a difference, right, between being moved by an author and noticing that the author is brilliant, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And that brings us to today's book, by the roundabout route. That is Armadale by Wilkie Collins. And all of that was by way of throat clearing, because this author doesn't do it for me. The Moonstone, the Woman in White, this author does not do it for me. I have no idea why, if Wilkie Collins doesn't do it for me. And also, while we're on the subject, right at the moment, just a quick little note. Because I got a few comments about that Thomas Hardy video. I'm going to choose to read them as earnest and helpful rather than condescending. But I got a few comments suggesting that maybe I should read some Thomas Hardy other than Tess of the Duberville set. So let's head that horse off at the pass, okay, shall we? I have read everything that Wilkie Collins has written, including every extant letter. Of course, I have. Same thing with Thomas Hardy. Same thing with D.H. Lawrence. This is not a question of me picking up a book in a dentist's office and thinking, who is this guy anyway? Okay? I realize I'm a moltenly sexy 28-year-old, but I have been around the block when it comes to written literature. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, although I'm open to any kinds of comments on Wilkie Collins, the kinds of comments that say, well, maybe you should read something other than Armadale really aren't going to be helpful, okay? I don't assume that you're stupid, so kindly do me the same courtesy. But I don't know why I have Armadale. I am assuming that if I have this, then this came out in 1866, and the Moonstone came out in 1868. So, and the Moonstone has gone on to become, the Moonstone and the Woman in White have gone on to become really his touchstone books. I think if Wilkie Collins is remembered at all, he's probably remembered for the Moonstone, and not for Armadale, certainly. But it's very much of a type with those, because it's a what the Victorians what is referred to as a sensational novel, where there's all sorts of baroque and garish plot twists, and in this case, deathbed confessions and mysterious alternate identities and last-minute plot twists. We saw a couple of attempts by Anthony Trollope at sensationalist novels, only as far as Anthony Trollope could go, because to him, believable characters and a steady, believably unfolding plot were absolutely paramount. Not so with Wilkie Collins, and God almighty. I'm not decrying Victorian sensationalist novels, but they can be done well, or they cannot be done well, and if you have to line this thing up against, for instance, the Eustace Diamonds, I don't know what to tell you there. As far as I'm concerned, there's no comparison whatsoever, and yet you can see that they are both written roughly on the same kind of template. Keep things popping. Compete with the garish pulp serials. Give the reader what they want in terms of a plot that is not stately. I don't know what to say about Wilkie. I'm probably going to get some Wilkie Collins diehard fans the way I did Thomas Hardy. I don't think there are many people out there, even diehard Wilkie Collins fans, who would say that he has anything like the literary ability of Thomas Hardy. He probably still has a large contingent of fans, but exactly like Thomas Hardy, only with slightly less guilt, because I don't think Wilkie Collins is all that good. I can report that this author has never done it for me. Just never done it for me. The most I have ever enjoyed Wilkie Collins on the page was Wilkie Collins in a novel as a character in Drood by Dan Simmons. He's marvelously portrayed there in pretty much the only way that you could make him interesting. I won't spoil it for you, but the real life Wilkie Collins would probably have been banned from London if he'd been the way he is in that book, but it still would have been interesting. And the same thing applies to his novels. These are to me quintessential examples of a boring man trying to be interesting, and it doesn't really work. That doesn't ever really work. Whether you're talking about movies, we can talk about Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut, or anything else. If you are a boring person, you should accept that, and maybe even, as the phrase goes, lean into it. But this Armadale, oh good lord! And again, I have the same reaction that I had with the Thomas Hardy, which is that I'm pulling this off the shelf and wondering, why is this taking up space? Why is this taking up shelf space in my Penguin Classic wall when I don't imagine that I would ever revisit this book? And if I did, I'd download it. I'd download an ebook, so that at least I have the ease and convenience of reading it on my iPad, as opposed to... Anyway, your Penguin Classic, the recommend section of your Penguin Classic today is... It's a little problematic. In fact, it's tougher, much tougher, than the recommend section of the Thomas Hardy video. Because Hardy, at least I can acknowledge, is great. Whereas Wilkie Collins, I think, is just kind of bad. I mean, the novels are, they're over earnest and plotting and unbelievable and archly purple, archly melodramatic in ways that just he's never done it for me. Now maybe I will hear from Wilkie Collins fans, and I will change my mind. Maybe I will say, all right, well, I haven't been nice enough to this author, so I'm going to try. I'm going to try this book or Woman in White. It's been a while since I read his, The Woman in White or The Moonstone. It's been a while since I've read either one of those, so maybe that's the way to do it. If you are a Wilkie Collins fan, feel free to sound off in the comments. I would say also email me. I leave my email on every video, but I think if you sounded off in the comments, it'd be of interest to a lot of other people, not just me. Feel free to sound off in the comments if you have a magic key to this author, because I'd love to have it. I don't want to get rid of any Penguin Classics. I want to have them all. So I'm going to wrap this up on that note and just hope that we hit a Steve Squealer of a book someday, soon. Somehow it's got to happen. All of these meh books in a row are starting to make me think I don't even like Penguin Classics. There's got to be something on the wall that I at least really want to recommend, if not head over heels love. We'll get there eventually. We've got plenty more Penguins to do. In fact, more than we have time for in 2020. That is increasingly obvious to me, but we'll do our best. So that's your Penguin for today. It's Armadale by Wilkie Collins. Yay! I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.